believe you said you had to ask, or not had to ask, but you asked Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow for Melanie's hand in marriage. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Very chivalrous. And you did that because Melanie, she doesn't have parents, or what's the deal with that?
At that time, Chad and Lori were the closest relatives that she had. She trusted them more than anybody else in her family.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Law&Crime Trial Network. I'm Jesse Weber. Testimony continues today in the trial of doomsday cult mom Lori Vallow Daybell. She's charged with the murders of two of her youngest children, Tylee and J.J., and also conspiracy in the death of her husband's first wife, Tammy Daybell. And you just listened to some of the testimony of the man who married Lori's niece. His testimony continued yesterday about why he believed the defendant manipulated his wife, and also jurors heard testimony from an insurance broker and a detective who was helping the Rexburg Police Department after Lori's children disappeared. Our very own Gigi Mckelvey is going to break this down for us. She is live right now outside the Ada County Courthouse in Boise, Idaho. She has been watching this trial. She has been our eyes and our ears inside of that courtroom. Gigi, good morning to you. I want to get right into it. What can you tell us about the rest of Ian Pawlowski's testimony? Again, he was married to Lori's niece.
It was interesting, to say the least. Like the clip we just heard, it seems like Melanie was really codependent on Lori and struggled when Lori and Chad left to go to Hawaii. But one very interesting thing that was said, and there have been moments, Jesse, where we hear something and then we all kind of look at each other and it's kind of like, did we just hear that? And yesterday was one of those moments. So in the days before Alex Cox died, he wasn't feeling well. He was having some shortness of breath and his heart was racing. And so there was a joint call between Lori, Chad, Melanie Pawlowski, and Alex. And Lori said that she cast Satan out of Alex's body. And get this, she rolled Satan up like a taco and shipped him to Antarctica.
That's the second time we've heard a taco comment, right?
Yeah, I think they must have really liked tacos, for sure.
It's just such an odd statement. It's like, we always wonder if a witness is telling the truth about what a defendant said. It's such a specific and weird description. It's like, how can you make that up? Now, overall, though, how much did he help the prosecution's case?
He seemed very, very credible. One thing to know about Ian Pawlowski is he came into the game very, very late. The kids had already been killed. Tammy Daybell had already been murdered, and this was right before Alex died. They only dated 10 days before they went to Vegas and got married, but he seemed very solemn on the stand, and it was very clear that this is a heavy thing for him. He was protective of Melanie, saying that Lori manipulated her at a very vulnerable time in Melanie's life. She was going through a divorce. She had lost custody of her kids, couldn't even see her kids, was having to arrange to have Christmas gifts sent to them. So that was one thing that he really focused on, was the fact that he felt Lori specifically took advantage of Melanie at a very bad time in her life. And
what did you take away from the cross-examination of Ian Pawlowski?
Yeah, it was pretty gentle. I think that there wasn't any punch moments where it was just like, wow, he just told him or put him in his place. There really wasn't a whole lot to be argumentative with Ian about. He was very straightforward. I think really it kind of helped the defense in a bit when you hear these roll Satan up like a taco statements. It kind of puts in the jury's ear. That's very bizarre. Maybe something you say to a 3-year-old to be funny, but not among adults.
Yeah, it was interesting testimony, and that wasn't the only thing we heard yesterday. I think there's a lot we want to get into. Let's actually start about this video. There was a video that the jurors saw showing Lori lounging around with Chad while her children were missing. What can you tell us about that video? What did the jurors see?
So the video, we've never seen this before. It hasn't been released until yesterday in court, but this is the moment when the police in Kauai, along with Rexburg police, served them with the order to produce the kids here in Idaho. She had a certain time frame that she had to produce them by, either to the Department of Health and Welfare or to the police department. And so we see video of them approach Lori and Chad. They're in lounge chairs. Lori has on a tiny little blue bikini. They ask if you're Lori and Chad. They confirm they are. Hand her the papers. She spends a good 20, 30 seconds reading through them. At one point, bizarrely, she just kind of looks up at the officers, doesn't say anything. She looked very annoyed. At one point, Chad leans in trying to read those papers, and then it's kind of like, bye, okay, thank you. She just did not seem bothered one bit, even though obviously this was the beginning of the end for her. She was eventually arrested for not producing those kids.
And not surprised. Like, they weren't surprised the police came to them.
Zero surprise.
Right.
It was as if somebody that they knew walked up and, hey, yeah, how you doing? Not one hint of being nervous. Chad, the way Chad leaned in, he always seems more nervous when the police are around from everything we've heard. But even him, it did not seem like it affected the both of them at all.
How'd the jury react to that video?
Yeah, taking notes. That is what this jury is doing nonstop, taking notes. They'll glance over at Lori at certain times to see her reaction. She was watching that video, kind of had a little grin on her face. But yeah, so they're alternating between taking notes and watching her at certain moments in testimony.
Now, I understand that we learned a little bit more about a search warrant and what was found in the car they were driving in Hawaii. What can you tell us about that?
We found out that they had a lot of things in that car that just make you scratch your head given the situation. 15 copies of Charles Vallow's death certificate. I mean, who needs that many unless you're collecting benefits for your kid? And then also, Lori was collecting Social Security benefits because her spouse had died and they had a minor child. We found birth certificates for J.J., one from when he was born in Louisiana, the second one when he was adopted and he had a name change, Tylee's birth certificate, Social Security cards, Tylee's bank card. There was an iPad with JJ written in red ink on the back of it. There was a doomsday book and $5,000 cash, among other things.
What does that tell you? What does that tell you? You've been following this case from the very beginning. What is the significance of all of those materials in that car at that point in time?
Well, she has grand theft charges in this case, so clearly she was getting the benefits, and all those things that she had in her car would be things you might need if there were a hiccup in the process and you need to go back to Social Security. The 15 death certificate copies for Charles, your guess is as good as mine. I have no clue why anybody would need that many, but it's the bank card. We know she was using Tylee's bank card after Tylee had been murdered, so it just tells us that, you know, she had everything she needed if something came up and she needed to go back to Social Security, and also that she was spending the money that was designated for Tylee, who was dead at that point.
So those pre-ordered death certificates that Chad ordered, I mean, what is that about?
So we heard from the benefits administrator from the school district that Tammy Daybell worked at, and she was walking us through the beneficiary process for these life insurance policies. Well, first of all, Tammy Daybell died on a Sunday. That Monday, 2 days later, Chad shows up at the school to collect those benefits, and she didn't see it at first, and she said, well, we're going to need death certificates before we can do this. And Chad tells her he's already ordered 8. This is on a Monday morning.
Oh, how convenient. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
my goodness. And then there was this whole talk about insurance, right? I think the insurance premiums, the insurance policies, what were the main takeaways there?
Well, the main takeaway for me was that there was one optional life insurance policy, and you could pay more every month to up that amount. Now, she started working there in 2017. 2018, there was no increase to that optional policy, but 2019, at the start of the school year in August, that was maxed out. So to me, that makes me think, did Chad say, hey, we need to up your life insurance policy or something like that? Because that was the point made, is that year in between when she started and when she was murdered, she didn't change that policy. And also, Chad was covered under that as well, and he was obviously listed as the beneficiary.
What a big day. I'm curious to see where the prosecution's going to go next. Do we have any idea about when they're going to rest their case and what we might be expecting from the defense's case?
I think soon. There was a hearing yesterday after we let out. Now, today's a short day, by the way. We're breaking at noon today. But there was a witness from the FBI who was going to be testifying and bringing in a PowerPoint today. And the PowerPoint was, I believe, over 100 pages, but it kind of summed up the 100,000+ pages that the jury might need back in that deliberation room. But it was argued that the PowerPoint itself was argumentative. It had chapters like manipulation, their religious beliefs, believes, and the judge agreed with the defense that it was very prejudicial and argumentative. So that witness is going to have to strip that down and make it just more fact-based and not so much opinion-based. And the state said they would have him do that. So we don't know if that will be the witness today, or I kind of suspect maybe Ray Hermosillo, who was the lead investigator down there in Rexburg, might close it out for them. But I think maybe 2 witnesses at most, because also what we've heard, Melanie Pulowski left Idaho 2 days ago. The prosecution just chose not to call her, is what I'm hearing. So it looks like we're down maybe to our last couple of witnesses. I don't think that the defense is going to put on a very long case. I think we could be at closings in early next week easily.
Lori taking the stand?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't
that
think
would
so
be the
either.
Hot Mess Express, and I would be here for it, Jesse. I would be here for it, but I don't see it happening.
Before I let you go, I've been seeing a lot of chatter online about the Tammy Daybell conspiracy charge that not Gigi faces, sorry, that Lori faces. I think the evidence against Lori with respect to the kids, you could argue, is significant. There is a question: is the evidence against her for conspiracy to commit the murder of Tammy Daybell, is that significant? What do you think?
I think if you look at it in totality, you could assume, but fact-based, I was expecting a lot of text messages between her and Chad to come in. I thought maybe Melanie Pulowski might tie that together because she was with Lori in Hawaii when Tammy Daybell was murdered. But so far, I agree 100% with those people that are saying it. I haven't seen anything that points me directly to her being involved in this conspiracy, unless that's something we hear either today or with their last witness. But as of now, there's been not much hard evidence put forth on that charge.
Gigi Mckelvey, excellent reporting as always. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Now, Gigi's going to go back into the courtroom. She's going to come back live a little bit later on in the program to give us an update about what has happened in court this morning. In the meantime, I am signing off, but here's the good news. Don't go anywhere, because we're going to be heading to the El Paso County, Colorado courtroom for the stepmom murder trial of Letitia Stout, and we're going to recap the testimony of cell phone data expert Kevin. We'll be back.